So we'll do the siyum. Technically speaking, doing a siyum during the 9 days allows you to eat meat. According to halacha, the Shulchan Aruch, when we make the siyum today, during the 9 days, we don't eat any meat and don't drink no wine. But if you make a siyum, then technically you're allowed. In Chabad, we don't do that anyways, but the Rebbe asked to make a siyum so that we finish the tractate. So I'm really excited that we'll be finishing the tractate Megilah. This is a legitimate siyum, which means that every siyum is legitimate. But in this case, we actually all as a group kept on learning week after week after week until we finish. So to me, this is really exciting to have the opportunity to finish today. So this is the last side. It's Lamed Beis Amud Aleph. It's 32a. And it's the second line over here. And we'll go to learn it. Okay. Zog the Gemara. Now here we also have the two traditions, and actually the halacha remains like they do it in Ashkenaz, not in Chabad, but it brings down both customs over here, and it rules like the Ashkenaz, and yet Chabad does it differently. Here you'll see. We're talking about when you read from a Sefer Torah, when you get an Aliyah. How do you do it? So, Tana Rabbanon, we learned in Abraisa. It says like this: Poiseyach v'royeh. You open up, you unroll the Torah, and you see where you're going to read. You read the spot. You read from the spot that you're going to read. So you open it up and you look at the spot. What do you do after that? Goylel. Then you roll it together, and then umevarach, and then you make the bracha. So you open it up, you look where you're going to read, you re-roll it again, and then you make the bracha. V'choizer, and after you make the bracha, upeiseach v'koidem, and then you open it up and you read. What's the reason for that? We'll see in the Gemara. What's the reason why we do it that way? Because you don't want people to think, the Gemara says, that the brachas that you're reading are written in the Torah. So if you're going to just open it up and then you're going to start saying the brachas, so today we have like the brachas on the side of the bima, so people look over there, you can see. But sometimes people know the brachas by heart, right? So if you're just going to say the brachas and you're going to keep the Torah open, then people are going to think that you're actually reading the brachas from the Torah. So, and that's not true. So therefore, the way he says, Divrei Rab Meir, this was Rab Meir. Again, so he says, Piseyach, you open it up, which means you unroll the place, V'royeh, and then you see the place where you're going to read. Then Goylel, then you roll it together. And then Umevarech, and then you make the bracha, once it's closed. And then, then you go back and you open it up again, and then you read. That's Divrei Rab Meir. That's Rab Meir's opinion. Rabbi Yehuda says no. He says you don't have to go through all the steps. Poiseyach, you open it up, v'royeh, and you see the space. You don't have to close it again. Umevarech, you make the bracha v'koyre and you read. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't worry about people are going to think that you're reading the brachas from the Torah. He says everybody knows that there is no brachas in the Torah, and you don't have to worry about it, and you don't have to roll it together, and then you can make the bracha while the Sefer Torah is open. But that's the machloikas, the disagreement between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Yehuda says again, poiseyach, you open up, you unroll it, v'royeh, you see the spot, umevarech, and you make the bracha v'koyin, and then you read. So the Gemara asks, my time with Rabbi Meir. What's Rabbi Meir's reasoning? Why does he require you to roll it again? And the Gemara says, Kidu Ula, just like the halacha that we learned from Ula. In the olden days, they would have what's called a meturgaman. A meturgaman would be somebody who would translate, yeah? All right. So what happens? They used to have somebody who is called a meturgamon. A meturgamon means someone who translated into their language, into the other language, translates it. And when you're reading from the Torah, we don't want anybody translating it. Why? Because we're concerned that people might think that the translation that he is giving is written in the Torah. And there's no really translation in the Torah. There's no Targum in the Torah. So again, the Gemara is saying, what's the reason of Rabbi Meir might have a Meir the Ula? Like Ula said, the Omar Ula said, Mipnei ma omru hakoire batoiro lo yisaye la meturgemon. Why did they say that the one who reads in the Torah should not help the translator? So, if you're reading from the Torah, you don't help the translator translate. Why? If you're going to help him, people will think that what you're saying is written in the Torah, Kidei shelo yomru, so that people shouldn't say Targum kosu b'Torah, that there's a Targum written in the Torah. So that's why you should not help him translate. Hachanami. So the same thing is in our case. By us, Hachanami here too. The reason why we don't want you to say the brachas while the Torah is open, Kidei shelo yomru brachas ksuvim b'Torah. They shouldn't say that there is blessing written in the Torah. If you're going to keep the Torah open and you're going to say the brachas, they're going to think that you're saying the brachas because that's what you're seeing in the Torah. Just like he doesn't want the one reading from the Torah helping the Meturgamon so that they shouldn't say that there is Targum written in the Torah. Seems to be a pretty good argument. So what will Rabbi Yehuda respond to? Why does he say that you can just make the brachas once you unroll it? He says, listen, this is not the same as the other case. The translation, Targum ikolimiti. Translation, there is to make a mistake. People might confuse, may think, maybe there's Targum written over there. So therefore, over there we say, don't help him because people shouldn't think. But everybody knows that there's no brachas in the Torah, so you don't have to close the Torah to make the bracha. Let's do Rashi. Targum ikolimiti. The translation there is to make a mistake. Ikolimiti. V'oimer, a person make a mistake, and he'll say Targum kosu b'Torah, that the Torah is written Targum. Where is he translating it? It must be in the Torah. So what do we care what they're going to say? And Rashi says what's going to happen. Targum b'Torah. They're going to come to write Targum in the Torah. Maybe there's Targum. But brachas lekalimiti. Blessings, there is no way to make a mistake. No, everybody knows there's no brachas. People are not going to start writing brachas in the Torah because they're going to think, oh, the guy didn't close the Torah, so therefore he must be reading it from the Torah. We don't have such a mistake. You're not going to make a mistake like that. Brachas lekalimiti. By brachas, there's nothing to make a mistake. Aval brachas, hakol yoidim she'ein brachas ksuvim b'Torah. Everybody knows there's no brachas in the Torah. So therefore, he says it's okay, you don't have to cover it. So what does he rule? Omar Rab Zeir, Omar Rab Masna. Says Rab Zeir named Rab Masna. Halacha, the halacha is Poiseyach v'roya u'mevorich v'koyra. He opens up, he sees the place where you start, he makes the bracha and he reads. He does not need to roll it up again. He says that's the halacha. That's not what we do in Chabad. What do they do in Ashkenaz? They do like the halacha.
That's what we do in Ashkenaz. It's also that's what the Rambam says.
Yeah, well, that's what it says. The halacha is,
yeah.
But that's not in our tradition. But
the Rambam gives a reason that if you close the Torah and then reopen it, there's a good chance, and I see it at Chabad all the time, the guy's going to lose his place where it was. So that you keep it open so the Balkori doesn't have to start looking for the spot over again.
Okay, that's a good reason, but that reason is not brought down here in the Gemara, and not in the Rashi. That may be the reason. That's additional reasons, but in the Gemara they don't bring down that reason. Over here, it's more of an issue whether you're going to. So it's basically to help the Balkora. I mean, the idea why you want to see the place because you're making a bracha, you want to make the bracha on what you're going to be reading. It's like, that's the food you're going to eat. That's what you're going to read. So you want to make the bracha on what you're going to read. Matter of fact, if you show the wrong place and then you realize you showed the wrong place, if it's on another page, you may have to make a new bracha. This is a whole big discussion if you don't have the right place. If it's within that page, it's a little more lenient, but whatever the case is, that's the way we do it. But the Gemara has an issue the way he says it. Like, instead of just saying, the Gemara has V'leima halach Rabbi Yehuda. Why don't you just say the halach is like instead of saying what you do, you open, you read, and you make the bracha and you read, and you don't roll it up. Why doesn't it just say the law? You have a machloikis. That's what Rabbi Yehuda said. Just say the halach is like Rabbi Yehuda. And the Gemara says because some people switch around Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. Some people say that what Rabbi Meir said is what Rabbi Yehuda said, and what Rabbi Yehuda said is what Rabbi Meir really said. So he doesn't want to take any chances. He doesn't want to say the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. He may not know because there's others that say switch around the opinions. So he just tells you what you do. You open it up, you look, you make the bracha, and then you read.
It's interesting the Gemara doesn't often stop to tell us what the halacha is.
Yeah, sometimes it does. Yeah, I know, but it's not unique. The next thing is unique. The next thing is unique because what Rashi is going to tell you. The next thing, Rashi is going to say, I don't know what it is. What's it? Rab Zayda, Rab Masna. Says Rab Zayda, the name of Rab Masna. Haluchis. Now, we know luchas as the tablets. But what is he talking about over here? The Gemara is going to say they're not considered holy. So what are the luchas over here? What are they? Rashi says, haluchas lo yadaiti mahin. I don't know what they are. What are the luchas? Rashi says, he doesn't know. I mean, we know what the luchas that Moshe Rabbeinu brought are, but we don't know in the Gemara over here. What does it mean, the luchas over here? What is he talking about? And Rashi brings down another commentary. He says, V'yesh meforshim, and there's other commentaries that say, Hein ha'asuyim l'svorim shelonu, those that are made for our svarim, she'enon asuyim begilyon, they are not made in on a roll, on a sheet, but they're like books. Maybe it's talking about the bookcase where you put the books. So he's saying that the luchas, according to that one, those are made for our seforim. There's an Aron Kodesh which is made for the Sefer Torah. And then there is a luchas, I guess, a bookcase which is made for regular books. In any event, Rashi says he doesn't know for sure what it is. And also the bimos. Bimos as the platform. That's what we have, a bima in which we read the Torah. But it was more, Rashi says, Shoyo oisim la melech beparshas hamelech. Actually, this year is a year of Hakel. And when the king would read, they build a platform on which the king would read. That's called the bima. Kedamrina Memseches Soita Memalef Hamadal. From there in the tractate Soita, the Gemara tells you about what they would build for the king. But basically, those are not Ein Bahem Mishum Kedusha. They don't have sanctity. What does it mean, don't have sanctity at all? So, quoted from the Yerushalmi, says they're not considered as holy as the Aron Kodesh, where you put the Torah, but they are considered holy like the shul. They're still, if it's the bookcases and the bima in the shul, they're not as holy as the Aron Kodesh. Like before, we had the various different levels of the Torah, the mantles, the Aron Kodesh, but the bima, he says, is not on that level. That's what it seems in the Yerushalmi. Not just literally Ein Bam Kedusha, there's no Kedusha, but there's the higher level of Kedusha. Another halacha, Amar Rab Shvati, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rab Shvati says the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Hagoylel Sefer Torah, the one who rolls the Sefer Torah. Here we call it, the Goylel is called here the one who has basically Hagbeh, the one who raises the Torah. We call him the Goylel because he rolls it together, or the way the Ashkenaz does it, the person picks it up, and then the person one who does Galila, he rolls the two sides, the two Eitzachayim together. But in either event, whoever does it, whether the person that does the Hagbeh rolls it up together, or it's the person who comes over after the Hagbeh that rolls together, we're saying that Hagoylel Sefer Torah, you have to place it in the place where it's sewn together, which means that should be the break between the two panels that you sew together. That's where it should stop. And the reason is Yamiden al Atfar Keneged HaTafar, by the where it's sewn. Shashom Roi Lahat Koyof, over there it's fit to tighten it well. Maybe you're afraid in the middle you might not want to tighten it, you don't want to rip the parchment. Over there, I guess it's fit because it's the middle of a scene. It's easier, it's better, but they're not afraid to rip it. That's fit to tighten it better. That's why you put it by this scene. Further, Rab Shvati said, name Rabbi Yochanan. We're talking about now Hagoylel Sefer Torah. Rashi is saying we're talking about one person, and you have a Sefer Torah and you have it on your lap, and you want to move it. So you let's say you took out the Torah and you're reading it. How should you roll the Torah? Hagoylel Sefer Torah. So he says Goyleloi mibachutz. So you roll it from the place which is outside of you, and then but you don't roll it from the part. You roll it from the outside to the inside, not from the inside to the outside. Meaning, you roll it from outside your lap to your lap, not from your lap towards the outside, because we're afraid that it might fall down if you start rolling it from the inside to the outside. It might fall down on the other side. Rashi. Let's see what Rashi says. Again, you roll it from the outside, but you don't roll it from the inside. Rashi says, you're rolling the Torah, you're one subject to the next subject, another one part of the Torah to the next part of the Torah. And you're all by yourself. The Sefer Torah munach al birkov, and the Sefer Torah is lying on your knees. So what you do is so you roll it from the outside, and you roll it from the outside in, not from the into the outside. Rashi explains what it means is the the page which is outside of his knees where he's holding it, goyleloi. That is what you roll. V'yogel mitzad chutz letzad pnim, and you roll it from the outside towards the inside. Why? She'im yoichaz amud hapnimim. Because if he would hold the inner v'yogel letzad chutz, and he will roll it towards the outside, then the outer one will stretch, and it'll fall to the ground. So don't roll it from you to the outside, but roll it from the outside to the inside. I guess what's on his lap is staying there. It's just being rolled on top. But if he rolls it out, it might go the other way. What happens, ukeshu mahadkoi? But once you tighten it, is mahatkei mibifnim, ve'ein mahatkei mibachutz. Then you tighten it from the inside, but you don't tighten it from the outside. What does it mean? So Rashi, when you finished rolling it, so you rolled it from the outside to the inside. Now ubolahatkei, and now you're coming to fasten it. Yoichaz bipnimi, then you hold on the inside. V'yahadik alachitzin, and then you tighten it on the outside. We don't want you to tighten it by putting your head over it, so that you don't cover the writing with your hands. Because it's a mitzvah to show the writing to the people when you are fastening. So I guess in this case, before he was talking about an individual who was doing it by himself, right? Now he's saying, but it's a little bit, it says, Shagomar Megilah. In other words, he's talking about the following of the previous situation when he finished rolling it. And so I guess he's still, I'm not sure where the other people are looking on his lap, the way he's holding it. And I'm not sure exactly. And if he's coming to tighten it, and there's nobody else there to help him, I guess he's doing it by himself. So he says, hold the inner one and tighten it on the outside so that the people can see. Because if you're going to go from the outside to the inside, then he's going to be covering the writing with his hands. And he has to show it to the people when he tightens it. I'm assuming even while he is sitting over here, it's laying on his lap, he's saying. So so it's still going to be, maybe there is people are around him and watching him. So that's the way to do the Galila there. Not sure exactly what the case is, but you got to use your imagination. Further, Rav Shvati said name Rabbi Yochanan. Asora shekoru b'Torah. You have 10 people, so to read the Kriyas Torah doesn't mean literally, because as Rashi says, you don't need 10 people. There's no 10 people reading in the Torah. But when you have a minyan, that means that's when you read the Torah. So when you do have a minyan, so then you honor Hagodol Shabahem Godol Sefer Torah. It's the senior, the most senior amongst them. He's the one that gets to do the Galila of the Sefer Torah. So Rashi explains Asora Shekoru doesn't mean 10 people literally. Shenesvu, they gathered. It was 10 in there. 10 gathered. The koru hashlishi or hashvi, and they read either 3 or 7. Lashon shlishi shvi is a little bit. I think they read 3 or 7. Whatever the rule of the day is. If it's Shabbos, it's 7. If it's a weekday, then it's 3. or anything in between. So then, but you have 10 people at the minyan. Because we can't read if you don't have 10 people, less than 10 people. That's why he says 10 that read the Torah. It doesn't mean 10 that read. It means 10 present over there. So you have the adult. Hagoyleloi, goylo sefer Torah. And because hagoyleloi noitel schar kulam. Just wondering if my text over here is correct. So he says that hagoyleloi noitel schar kulam, the one who rolls it, he takes the reward for everyone. That's why you give it to the most senior person to get the reward. The Rabbi Shuban Levi, but this is what Rabbi Shuban Levi said: Asora shekoru b'Torah, that 10 people who read the Torah, hagoylel sefer Torah kibel schar kulom. The one who rolls the Torah, he got the reward for everybody. Does it really enter your mind that the other people are not going to get any schar? Everybody read in the Torah. He's just doing the Galila. He gets everybody's reward. Why should they not get their reward, the people that read from the Torah? He received reward corresponding to everybody. So in other words, his reward is so great from the Galila, equal to all the aliyahs that they had before. Not to take away their aliyahs, not to take away from their schar, but equal to their schar. V'omar Rav Shvatya, Omar Rav Yochanan. Said Rav Shvatya named Rav Yochanan, Menayin. So it's all statements of Rav Shvatya, Omar Rav Yochanan. Menayin shemishtamshim bebaskoil. How do we know that we're allowed to use a baskoil? What exactly is a baskoil? That's sort of a voice. It's a sub-voice. Baskoil meaning the daughter of a voice, meaning it's a sub-voice. It's some kind of a voice. Now, this might be considered sorcery or things like that. So he says, how do we know that you're allowed to use this? And let's see Rashi. What does it mean? Mishtamshim b'baskoil? Im beliboy lahaskel dover. Let's say you had in your mind to start something. Then v'shoma koil, you hear that baskoil, oihin or lav, says yes or no. You have a mind to do something, and all of a sudden you hear that voice that says yes or no. Yeah. So if you do the, you're allowed to do that. You hear a voice that says yes or no. You can follow it. You can follow that voice. That's not considered nichush, like the guessing game, like would be sort of prohibited. Shenemar, because it says in Yeshaya Posuk Lamed, it says, your ears will hear something from behind you saying, and over there the Posuk continues, that's the way you should go, so you follow it. When do we do that? That's when you hear the voice of a male in the city. Meaning that would be a non-common voice in the city. And that would mean that it's a baskol boilov. That's a baskol. That's telling him to do something. Or v'kal itza bedabra, or a voice of a woman in the desert. It's also uncommon over there. In other words, if you hear the voice of a man in the desert, don't pay attention to it. Or the voice of a woman in the city, don't pay attention. It doesn't mean anything. It's only if it's a man's voice in the city and the woman's voice in the desert, that's when you can follow. That's when you can think that it's a maskil. V'huda Omar hin hin. He says yes, yes, double it. V'huda Omar lav lav. Both. You have to say yes, yes, no, no. Which means you can't just say it once. V'huda Omar hin hin lav lav. Shenichpal shtei pa'amim. That it's double duplicated twice. Further, v'Omar Rab Shvat Yom Rabbi Yochanan. Shvati said name Rabbi Yochanan. Kol hakoyre b'loy ni'ima. Anybody who reads without pleasantness, without sweetness, reading the Torah without the trop, ne'imo going taime hamikras, like the trop of the mikra, you read it without ne'imo, or vishoyne b'loy zimra, or you learn without sing-song. It was their tradition to sing while they were studying. So reading without trop and singing without zimra gives a very severe pasuk, a very severe punishment. All of Akosov Eimer, about him the pasuk says, I've given them laws that are no good. In other words, they don't enjoy, they don't sing, they don't sweeten it, as if they don't like it. I mean, the Torah should be sung and should be sweetened with everything. The Gemara is Matkiv L'Abaya. Abaya challenged it. He attacked this idea. Just because he doesn't know how to make his voice, spice up his voice, make it sweet. Mishpotim lo yichyu bahem koris bey. You're going to call him that these are laws that he doesn't want to live by. Elokid Rab Misharshia. But rather this goes like a Rab Misharshia. The Omar, he says, Shnei Tamid Chachomim Yeshim Bir Achas Ve'ein Neichim Ezeh Ezeh B'Halocha. Two Tamid Chachom that sit in one city. Something else. This is not whether when they say my laws are no good. If you have two scholars sitting in the city, but Ve'ein Neichim Ezeh Ezeh B'Halocha, they're not comfortable with each other in halacha. They don't discuss. They don't meet the minds. They're just at each other's throat, which is pretty common nowadays. You have two Talmidei Chachamim that. So Aleim HaKosav Eimer, about them, the pasuk says, I given them laws that are no good and they don't live by the mishpat, which means with these laws you should be very excited. You should be noichin. The Eibishter is sort of saying, well, you don't like my laws, that's why they're not noichin to each other. Amar Rabbi Parnach, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan. Kol ha'oiches sefer Torah orum, nikbar orum. Anybody who holds a sefer Torah naked. Naked means without a cloth. Orum zok Rashi b'lo mitpachas soviv, sefer Torah. Without a cloth. You shouldn't really be touching the parchment of the sefer Torah directly. That's why we use a gartel. That's why we use a talus. That's why we use something else. But if you just hold the Sefer Torah without the mantle, just the parchment itself, is a pretty severe punishment. Nikbar Orum is buried without clothes, without shrouds. The Gemara doesn't think that's a fitting punishment. So the Gemara, Orum Salka Daituch, would it actually enter your mind that actually it means without clothes? It's not doesn't really fit. Eloima, but rather say Nikbar Orum B'loy mitzvahs. He dies naked without mitzvahs. They take away all the mitzvahs from him. So that also, the Gemara said B'loy mitzvahs al kadaitach. Does it enter your mind? Why are they going to take away all those mitzvahs just because they held the Sefer Torah? Elom Rabbaye, but Rabbaye said Nikbar Orum B'loy oisa mitzvah, that he is buried Orum without the benefit of the mitzvah. The mitzvah that he does while he's holding the Sefer Torah, without the mantle, he's not going to get the reward for that mitzvah because he held it in such a way. Omar Rabbi Yanai Berei the Rabbi Yanai Sobo, Mishmei the Rabbi Yanai Rabba. These are three Rabbi Yanais, but one is the son of Rabbi Yanai the elder, and that's in the name of the great Rabbi Yanai. He says, Mutev Tigolel Hamitpachas. You're better off rolling the cover, Val Yigolul Sefer Torah, and not to roll the Torah. Rashi says betoich hamatpachas, inside the matpachas. Not sure exactly how are they going to do it. Maybe it means not to roll it while it's covered, but to how are you going to roll the how are you going to go roll the cover and not that? Not sure exactly.
The
Wow, this
mapachas is the cloth
cover.
they put over it.
Yeah, pachas means the clothes, the cloth, I think it means the mantle. You know, how do you roll the mantle? He says, don't. Rashi says, "Val yiglol sefer Torah b'toich hamitpachas." That part I know. Don't roll it within the mitpachas. We can say roll the sefer Torah like on the bima versus rolling it in the mitpachas. Anyways, the Gemara finishes with Vaidaber Moshes Moyade Hashem al Bnei Yisrael. Hashem speaks Moshe speaks Hashem's Yom Tovim to the Yidden in the Parshas Emer in Vayikra. So we learn from here mitzvosom sheyu koidim oisom kolechad v'echad bizmanid. It's a mitzvah to read each one of the parshas of the Yom Tovim on the time of the Yom Tov. That Moed Hashem, Moshe says Moed Hashem al Bnei Yisrael, the times of Hashem, to read them each one in their proper time. Tan Rabbana, we learned in Abraisa. Moshe tiken lahem Yisrael. Moshe instituted for the Yidden that you should ask and expound in the matters of that day as hilchas on the Yom Tov itself. Just like here we're talking about reading from the Torah, but he instituted that they should ask question and expound about the Yom Tov. Hilchas Pesach b'Pesach, the laws of Pesach to expound the Pesach. Hilchas Atzeres b'Atzeres, the laws of Shavuos during Shavuos. Hilchas Chag b'Chag, the laws of Sukkos during Sukkos. And then further, Moshe tiken lam Yisrael she'usholim v'dorshim binyonej shel yom hilchos Pesach b'Pesach hilchos atzeres b'atzeres. So he learns like this: Loma hutzrech lichtib kan. Why was it necessary to write here Vaydaber Moshe? It says Vaydaber Moshe Moed Hashem. Why do we have to? V'chi kol hamutzos kulam loy amram Moshe Yisrael. Did Moshe not say all mitzvahs to the Yidden? Ma'u vaydaber Moshe es Moed Hashem. Why are we saying that Moshe speaks Moed Hashem b'nei Yisrael? So Melamed, so this teaches us that he would discuss with them the laws of every festival during their time, to let them know the statutes of Hashem and the teachings, and they accepted and they observed the reward of the mitzvahs for them and their children here and in the future. I'm not sure this meaning. Rashi combines the both things, that Moshe's mitzvah that they should read it bismanoi, and also to expound on the halachas of Pesach and the Yisukas, each one in their proper time. The reason why you talk of is to tell them the halachas, and they accept it and they fulfilled. So then, actually, kibu. So the answer is that's sort of the reward. They accepted and they fulfilled it, so that the reward of the mitzvahs is upon them and on their children here and in the future. Hadrin Allah Perik Bnei Ha'ir Uslik Allah Mesechta Megilah. Hadrin Allah Pedig Bnei Yair Uslika Lo Mesechta Megilah. Hadrin Allah Pedig Bnei Yair Uslika Lo Mesechta Megilah. Okay, this finishes the Mesechta Megilah. Now let's go and do quickly the first Mishnah of Moyed Katan, because you should start right away. So Moyed Katan is here. Start over here. Okay. So this is our next Masech that we're going to do is Moed Katan. And we'll start with the Mishnah. This talks about the laws of Chol HaMoyed, what is permitted and not permitted to do in Chol HaMoyed. So we'll do the first halacha. We're not going to really learn the whole Mishnah. Just to start, we'll start with the first halacha. Mashkin Beis HaShalochim B'Moyed. A Beis HaShalochim means a kind of a field that you're going to always send water to it. If you have a field on a hill, the water runs down. So it doesn't absorb, not enough water. The rain, everything runs down. So you have to constantly send it water. It's called shlochim, beis hashlochim. It's a field that you need to constantly water. But because that water is it's a necessity for the field, the Chachamim allowed. We'll see in a place where there's a loss and there is a need, the Chachamim were allowed. Basically, the laws of Chol HaMoyed is not very clear in the Torah. The Torah has given the rabbis a leeway. They should decide what exactly is permissible and not permissible, as we will see, and therefore, in some things, it's more lenient than others. Okay, so this basically brings us to the end of Masechta Megilah, the beginning of Moed Katan, and Mitzvah Shem,